This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on 90th Interpol General Assembly. The participants are Rishi Kumar Shukla, former Director, Central Bureau of Investigation, and Namrata Biji Ahuja, journalist.
The biggest gathering of the police chiefs of 195 countries is taking place in India, which is hosting the 90th General Assembly of the Interpol, beginning tomorrow. It is also the year when India celebrates 75 years of independence. India has been a member of the Interpol since 1949. It's a great occasion for us being the host of the biggest global policing event. To begin with, can you please share with us the growth story of the CBI's exchanges with the Interpol and how India has really climbed up the charts to become one of the most active and the most deliverable members of this group?
Every member country of the Interpol has one nodal agency, which is called the National Central Bureau. For India, it has been the CBI for quite some decades now. CBI is almost a federal investigative agency, and it focuses specifically on investigation of crimes and crimes which have been given by various statutory courts to the CBI to investigate. We have been investigating crimes in CBI, international crimes, for several decades. It was only natural that the government decided that the CBI would be the nodal agency to interact with the Interpol. Interpol is almost now 100 years old. In fact, it first met in 1923. So next year it celebrates its 100th year. This is the 90th General Assembly. Obviously, the World War II and other events, and then obviously we had the COVID pandemic the last couple of years. So it's been a very regular meeting of exchange of information for law enforcement officers. We are aware that the world has shrunk tremendously in the last few decades. There has been a humongous technological revolution, and therefore all law enforcement has to get together if they have to be strong enough to combat the vicious network of international and global crime syndicates and organized crime.
So with India going digital, there is a lot of focus on e-payments, on introduction of cryptocurrencies now. How do you see the changing role of the Interpol in tackling financial crimes where geographical boundaries are not only just not visible, but they're also now there is dark web and all other instruments where even tracking criminals, particularly in economic offenses, becomes near impossible for police agencies?
This is a huge challenge. Interpol, I must clarify, it is not a police agency with any specific police powers or investigative powers. It is an association of various law enforcement agencies which are all sovereign in their countries, but their jurisdiction ends when their national boundaries end. It is here that the Interpol steps in for an effective and meaningful sharing of information. It has 19 databases now, and these databases have got information which are worldwide. Enforcement agencies throughout the world feed in the information and others sort of collect it and use it for their purpose. Cybercrime, digital crime is a huge challenge. Main issue, even if we are able to sort of identify a criminal or a server in a particular country, for us to be able to reach that server and reach that country is an absolutely almost a near impossible task. While the Interpol is very useful in allowing us to link and reach the place where the criminal probably is. But to be able to take action against the criminal and to bring him back to justice in India is again a very difficult task, because in most parts of the world, this cooperation amongst law enforcement is governed by diplomatic mutual legal assistance treaties, or what we call as letter rogatories, where the judicial request from one country to another. Interpol, however, is an absolutely fantastic place where we establish formal and also parallel channels of communication with law enforcement people across the world. For example, in this particular conference, there would be people of 195 countries, almost as big, if not bigger than the United Nations membership. Now, for them to meet face-to-face in this 3-day conference, and besides those face-to-face meetings, there would be any number of meetings in the sidelines, bilateral meetings. There would be occasions in social and cultural functions to meet and establish a rapport, which then becomes of critical importance when we have to reach out to these agencies for help in international investigations. The challenges are there, but Interpol is a very effective mechanism to combat them.
Sir, since you mentioned about diplomatic relations coming in once the Interpol issues a red corner notice, and what are the challenges it and certain countries would be unwilling to cooperate. So once that stage comes, what's the challenge for an agency like the CBI to overcome these challenges, which is the next step, which are the legal processes?
The country is not willing to cooperate. There is nothing which we can do much. The example of, let us say, amongst the CBI, one of the most wanted fugitives is the accused of the Bombay bomb blast, Dawood Ibrahim. They say that he is in Pakistan. However, Pakistan does not cooperate. They say we have no person of this name. And there is very little which the Interpol or any of us can do. But what is important is that a red corner notice is very essential because it actually restricts the movement of fugitives from one country to another very easily. The moment they try to cross a border, they are noticed. The country issuing that red corner notice is informed. And in many a time, if the law enforcement on the other country is willing to cooperate, we find that there is a great success. This, however, finally would again need a bilateral treaty or a bilateral diplomatic understanding to get the person back to India for, let us say, facing the trial. You are aware of that very famous, notorious fugitive, Mr. Nirav Modi, who is now in a jail in UK. He was apprehended by the UK police on a red corner notice issued by the Interpol on our behalf. Thereafter, the CBI went through a very lengthy legal battle in different courts of UK to prove that we have a criminal case ready and he has to undergo trial. All the legal courts in the UK supported our case, and now we wait for the extradition of the fugitive for further judicial process in India, including a criminal trial. That is the challenge, that for most countries, national boundaries are more significant and law enforcement works only within a territorial space. In digital crimes, territorial spaces have become dysfunctional. It is all a global, seamless criminal world, and that is where the challenges are arising. That is where probably this Interpol General Assembly can deliberate on as to how can there be a sort of a solution which can emerge in the near future for policing in different countries to get together. One thing which is happening of late and very positive happening is what is known as parallel or joint actions. I recollect it was in October 2020 when the FBI and the CBI had a joint and a parallel action where the FBI made raids in their own country at the same time the CBI made raids in India, and criminals on both sides were caught and legal action taken according to the law. A very important part of that, online child sexual abuse. Now here is one crime. No country, notwithstanding any national interest or geographical territorial boundary, would not act. So let us get together on crimes which are of such a nature that everybody is willing to cooperate. And in this area, India has joined the Interpol databases, and some excellent action has been taken against the perverts who are purveying in online child sexual abuse, and victims have been identified and they've been supported. So while the matter is difficult, the challenges are almost insurmountable, yet there are things which are happening positively, and it is only conferences of this nature which allow solutions to emerge in these almost seemingly intractable situations.
So I think other than online child sexual abuse, there has also been a growing concern amongst global law enforcement agencies on narcotics smuggling across boundaries, whether it is using courier services or sea routes. And India has seen major hauls recently of all kinds of synthetic drugs, cocaine and huge heroin seizures. A lot of help has been given by the Interpol. How do you see this growing forward with more cooperation needed amongst law enforcement agencies to crack down on narcotics smuggling, with India being a major route in the Golden Triangle?
This is another illustration of how if the law enforcement agencies get together and a multilateral organization like Interpol helps not only bringing them together but sharing data which is available with it, great success can be achieved. The last few months, there has been very successful operations, and I am sure that this particular conference for 3 to 4 days would strengthen such a move, and in such organized crime trafficking, even human trafficking is something which is of a very critical and significant nature. It is in such organized crimes that the Interpol has shown demonstrated its utility very, very successfully. In the last couple of years, it has been even more prominent. Also, that the Executive Council of the Interpol, which basically decides all the policies, has, after a very long time, the Indian member, Mr. Praveen Sinha, Special Director of the CBI, got elected last year to the Executive Council, and therefore our say in the Interpol affairs and our ability to project our needs and our sensitivities has grown, which is again a very welcome thing.
Jürgen Stock, the Secretary General of Interpol, has also recently been stressing on the fact that Interpol would not really entertain requests by member countries which are seemingly political, military, religious, or racial in nature. How workable do you think is this strategy when it comes to different countries having different yardsticks of requesting the Interpol for a notice against a fugitive?
This is a bit of a ticklish situation. Different law, different countries, different requests. How does the Interpol go through them? The Interpol has appointed what is known as a commission, a Central Commission for Files, called CCF or something similar. I can be corrected. But the Interpol therefore allows a situation where anybody against whom a notice is to be issued can go up and appeal and say that I am being targeted in a particular country because I am a political opponent. And then he goes on to give some proof and something. Therefore, it almost becomes a semi-judicial process whereby the country which is seeking the notice has to demonstrate to the Interpol that they have sufficient evidence of a international crime-related fugitive, and the other person goes up and say that I am being persecuted because of religious or ethnic or political opponent. This thing is continuing. It's a gray area. I don't think so there can be an easy answer to this because there are different nature of laws in different countries, and the evidence, let us say, in my country may be completely different from evidence in another country. So it is for the Interpol to sort of find a solution, and that is exactly where the governing council of the Interpol comes in, where the commission of files come in, where there are elected police officials who are going from various countries to the Interpol who become important.
Your concluding remarks, sir, how do you see India really arriving on the global stage in its 75 years of independence by hosting this biggest policing conference and taking the lead in initiatives that will be appreciated in years to come?
This particular conference and its hosting is to demonstrate our ability and showcase to the world policing at large that how far we have come in the last 75 years, how our policing techniques have improved. In fact, India is one of the leading nations which offer capacity building or training capacities for police officers across the world. This is one of the strengths which we have, and I am sure that there will be very many memorandum of understandings with different policing contingents for training in India. We are also, given our economic and our technological growth, we are also right there in top of the Committee of Nations, and the vision of a India which is going to go ahead far more quickly, far more smoothly in the near future is definitely to be shown to the delegates of the conference. Besides this, I must just add two more points, that this conference being hosted here in New Delhi in this 75th year of independence was the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. It was he who in 2019 said that we must bring this conference here and we must in these years build up our capacity with the Interpol and then take strides which are even more larger, and let those strides be that of a giant nation. We can probably one of the leading countries as far as law enforcement capabilities go.
And we look forward to Prime Minister Narendra Modi tomorrow addressing the 90th Interpol General Assembly. These will be times where all the police chiefs across the world and people would be looking at as how law enforcement comes together to tackle crimes like human trafficking, drugs, trade, and terrorism. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on 90th Interpol General Assembly. The participants were Rishi Kumar Shukla, former Director, Central Bureau of Investigation, and Namrata B.G. Ahuja, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official.